All right. Hello, everybody. Good evening, good day. I don't know. Hassan Al Badri here, and with a dear friend, Chris Shelton. Chris, you can introduce yourself to the people.
Oh, hello, everybody. Hi, glad to be here today.
And who are you?
Oh, yes, who am I? Okay, I am Chris Shelton. I am a podcaster. I'm an author. I am a YouTuber. I have a podcast every week, and I talk about cults. I talk about extremism. I talk about Scientology because that's what I was involved with for a lot of years. And I've been out of that for about, 9 years now, 8 years. And so I've been making a sort of a career out of talking about cults and the goofy stuff that people get involved in.
All right. Well, we're going to start with a real icebreaker question, very simple one.
Sure.
What is God, objectively and subjectively?
Oh, something light and airy to start the day. Let's start the conversation going. Okay, so God. Yeah, right. My view of God, I mean, the real answer, I guess, for me, my view of God is I think people need comfort. I think people need to feel that there is more to their life than what we are given. I think people want more. I think death is very scary, and I think that people are very, very, very afraid of the unknown, and death is sort of the ultimate unknown. And the supernatural and the things that shape our lives and the forces that that move us around in life can be scary. And I think God is a construct that we create to help us deal with that and help us feel like we're not alone. That there is this sort of parental father figure, mother figure, parental figure, whatever. And I think that I think people invest an awful lot in that idea, even though there's absolutely no evidence that such a thing exists.
No.
And so, I don't really have a thing on it one way or the other as far as people believing in it. But when they use that belief to abuse people, I have something to say about it. And that's about as much as I really think about God.
Indeed. Well, your name is Critical Thinker at Large. I mean, what does it mean and how to be one, actually?
Okay, well, critical thinking, the thing about me and identifying as a critical thinker is that I put it out there as I am on a journey and I'm bringing people along with me. I'm not on a soapbox. I'm not lecturing to tell people how to think or what to think. I'm learning about critical thinking because I got out of a destructive cult where I was doing absolutely no critical thinking of any kind. And after you get out of a situation like that, you want to encourage people to think more because I should have thought more. And I see situations and I've talked to people who have run into situations in their life where had they thought about it a little bit more before they jumped in, they wouldn't have made that mistake. And so I made that mistake many times. And even after coming out of Scientology and learning about and starting to practice critical thinking, I still make mistakes. So my title or my idea here is not that I have achieved some summit or plateau of understanding. It's I'm learning, come with me for the ride, and let's see what we can figure out.
Exactly. Let's enjoy the ride together. True.
Exactly.
Okay. In all means, tenses, and purposes, philosophically, logically, do you think Scientology should be considered as a religion?
I don't think it should be, but I know that there are good arguments for it to be a religion. There are people who have made academic level arguments that Scientology is a religious philosophy, right? Academics have written about that. And I get it from a point of view, from a certain point of view. You can't judge a religion based on its truth.
No, of course not. That's true.
Right? There's none of that. So if you take that off the table, right, then what do you have? Well, with Scientology, you have a money-making scam.
Yeah.
You really do. It's a money-making scam. It's an operation, right? It's a con. And
Yeah.
yet, there's a whole bunch of people who are conned, who believe it's a religion. It's a valid, legitimate, recognized religion. And it is those things. But because it is so strongly a destructive cult, because it is so strongly a con, I personally go, yeah, the religion thing is fake with that. It's really not a religion. Not in the same way that Islam or Christianity are. It's just not. It's not the same thing. Eventually, I think it will become that if it continues to survive. But I'm hoping it dies off after its current leader is no more. You know, whether he dies or whether he gets thrown in jail.
Supposed to come back. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
but he's late. He's late a bit.
yeah. So.
I wonder actually, how come that with all the internet, with all this leakage of information and everything, how come there is really a rash of material of Scientology on the net? You can really you cannot find any. Like, for example, L. Ron Hubbard's lectures or his books.
Oh yeah, well that's by design. I mean, they don't want to post everything. They've posted quite a bit of. If you go to, I mean, I'm not endorsing Scientology here. But if you want to know about it, I mean, you can go to Scientology.org, which is their official website, and they got plenty of stuff on Scientology there. But the vast bulk of Scientology is in thousands of recorded lectures and, you know, and a whole bunch of books and issues. I mean, there's thousands of pages.
It feels kind of like it's the tip of the iceberg. There is really the whole iceberg down there hidden.
Yes.
But even what I wonder, like even the ex-Scientologists, like they couldn't publish stuff about it. Like that's what's weird in my eyes.
I don't know what do you mean they can't publish it? I mean, I've written a book. I've published.
I mean, like, not really published because they're gonna be sued and they're very litigious. But I mean, they cannot like open in really a rogue website and then put the material out there, like LRH lectures, his books. Of those high levels.
Well, no, it's copyrighted material. If you try to go make money off of it or something, or put it up there for the sake of distributing it, people, you know, the church might have something to say about that. You can get away with critiquing it. That's what I do, right? And that's fair use. But you can't just take people's copyrighted works and just throw it up on the net and just. You know. Yeah,
I'm wondering why not Anonymous have done that. I mean, they're pretty crazy enough.
Let's just say there is quite a bit on the net. I mean, all the important stuff is definitely there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Why should people? By the way, dear ladies and gents, all the links to Mr. Chris Shelton is down there in the subscription box. You can find his channel. I actually copied pasted everything.
Great.
So you can find his merchandise, his website, his podcast, his book, his Patreon, his PayPal. Please support him. Okay, he deserves all the love and support.
Thank you.
What is there anything what encourages people to buy your book, basically, or to read it, or to listen to it?
Well, the reason somebody should buy my book, Scientology A to Xenu, An Insider's Guide to What Scientology is Really All About. That's the name of it. I published it a few years ago, and it's still just as true today as when I wrote it, because it's not a memoir or just my experiences. I actually take the subject of Scientology and Dianetics and L. Ron Hubbard, and I break it all down. And you're not going to really find some of the stuff that I put in my book. You're not going to find anywhere else. You won't find it on the net. And it's a pretty critical analysis of the subject. So I tried. I'm not claiming that I was an objective analyzer. I am not objective about Scientology. I was a member, and I'm a trauma survivor and an abuse survivor. But I think I did a pretty good job of it. So you should check out my book.
Yeah, you should. Everyone should actually. Does Scientology actually prohibit stuff like prohibit stimulants, caffeine, alcohol? Because I've heard that that there is prohibition on alcohol actually.
Yeah, there is to a degree. Scientologists drink a lot, right? There are Scientologists who even become alcoholics.
Okay.
So it's not disallowed, but 24 hours before you're going to go in for any of the auditing, for the counseling, you can't drink. No drinking. And there is to be no illicit drug use of any kind. They even frown on aspirin and Tylenol and stuff. I mean, it's not forbidden, but again, within 24 hours of going into an auditing session, you cannot be taking medicines or things like that. So, and certainly never any illegal drugs, none. No heavy drugs, no category, schedule 2, 3, 4 drugs, none of that. That's completely forbidden.
What's their stance on smoking? Let's say
No, they're okay with smoking.
Just regular smoking is okay.
Yeah, no. Hubbard smoked like a chimney.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering. Like,
yeah, yeah. He actually, in the 1960s, he actually gave a lecture, talking about the pros, the joys of nicotine and how nicotinic acid is good for you. And Hubbard was a little off when it came to that. So.
Well, I'm a smoker myself, so maybe there is. Do you know the 4 horsemen of apocalypse? Like Mr.
I do know the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's an interesting question. You're talking about war, famine, death?
No.
Oh.
No. It's actually the new atheism movement when it came after the 9/11. Daniel Dennett, Sam Harris.
Daniel Dennett, Sam Harris. They were okay. The 4 horsemen were very inspiring to me when I first got out of Scientology. I learned a lot from reading their work, and I learned a lot about how to have a skeptical attitude about things by watching and listening to what they had to say. So they taught me quite a bit about some basic things about religion, about atheism, and about philosophy, and about critical thinking. I don't think any of them, I don't follow or subscribe with the views of any of them fully. I have disagreements with all of them.
Of course.
As it should be, right? So, yeah. But I like them. I think they have pretty good heads on their shoulders.
Yeah. All right. And here's the most important question, I think, from my opinion, about how to spot trance-inducing and hypnosis techniques so you don't be calm.
Okay, good. This is a discipline. This is like critical thinking. You'd have to actually, you have to set up an awareness or a kind of
radar.
What's that?
A radar. You put a radar on, like detector.
Right. Yeah. Yes, because the whole point, the whole thing about going into a trance is you'd slip into it slowly, right? You're not aware of the fact that it's happening. It's like falling asleep. So you want to, you can never remember the next day when exactly it was you fell asleep.
Yeah.
You just know you went to bed and at some point you drifted off. And going into a trance is an awful lot like that. And so what you'd want to do is basically be self-aware enough, right, to kind of watch for that. Now, going into a trance is not necessarily an evil or horrible thing, though. We do it all the time. But when it comes to trance induction, if you're in any kind of environment where somebody is going to do something to you, whether it's a doctor, a therapist, even a hypnotherapist, you should understand every step that's being done before it is being done on you. You should have consent.
I see. Yeah. I get what you mean. You should understand the technique that has been implied on you. So you
Correct.
get this. Yeah,
that's right. And anyone under any circumstances who tells you, oh no, don't worry about that, I don't have to tell you, you're just gonna want the experience, or whatever.
You should hear the bells still ringing. Yeah.
No, you're gonna tell me what you're gonna do before you're gonna do it.
Yeah, that's why I like actually your meeting in Canada. I think it was John Atack, you, and I think Stephen Hassan also.
Yeah.
When you show the techniques, really, like I translated like the half of it to the people, and people were really amazed. They said, like, hold on, this is what we have in Islam. This is what we have in Christianity. It's the same. Hold on, what's going on? And obviously, like all religions, basically, they use that trance-inducing technique, that hypnosis technique. Even Buddhism, actually, when they do the mantra over and over again, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme, it's actually you're hypnotizing yourself. That was really interesting.
Very much so, and it's actually characteristic of a lot of cults that they will try to do that to you, right? Through repetition and mantras and stuff like you just said. So you really got to be on the lookout for that stuff. It's a discipline. It's kind of like learning martial arts. You just have to keep practicing.
Exactly. Deep question.
All right.
Deep one. What is the meaning of life?
Oh, this is awesome. Whatever you ascribe to it.
Exactly. My point of view, exactly. Like
right.
You set your own goals and chase them, simply.
That's right. That's right.
Well, that was actually all the questions. Do you have anything else to ask me, or to trans-induce me into something, maybe?
Yeah, right. Well, I'll tell you, let's talk about critical thinking for a minute while we have a moment here, because this is something that's really near and dear to me, and it's the thing that would have prevented me from getting involved in Scientology in the first place. And there's an awful lot of people out there who I've interviewed and talked to and helped along the way, helped out of destructive cult situations, who could have prevented that if they had spent a little bit more time, right, and a little bit more effort at learning about what they were getting involved in before they did. So let me say then that, trance induction is kind of a difficult, complicated thing to explain to people, right? Because it's an altered state of consciousness, and there's theories about it and what it means and how it works, and it's a little confusing. But if you can understand or think with the idea that critical thinking is something that you practice and learn the same way you would practice karate.
Yeah.
It's a discipline. No one is born knowing karate.
No one is immune actually to being fooled or conned, really. Everybody is subject to it, really.
That's
even
right.
The smartest minds in the world, I mean.
That's right.
And that's what I wondered also about Scientologists, actually, ex-Scientologists who left the church. I heard, I think once John Atack said that it takes almost 12 years to recover from really that severe trauma if you've been really long enough. And what hit me also, that it's such a brilliant and also evil, because it makes you distrust psychologists.
Yeah.
So you cannot recover to go to a psychologist or a shrink to get a therapy and recover from it. So that will really prolong your trauma, your trauma recovery.
Yeah, it actually can. It depends on the person, though, right? I would never assign an amount of time to how long it's going to take somebody to recover from an experience, whether it's a destructive cult or trauma situation, domestic violence, whatever. Everybody's kind of different with that. But I will say that if you don't do the work, and if you don't put the time in to conscientiously work on your recovery, you will miss things, and there will be things that are not addressed. There could be trauma, there could be guilt, there could be responsibility and association and relationship issues. There's a lot of stuff that comes in this package of a cult. So, so recovery from it usually does require some help. And that can first be help in the form of just reading books and articles and trying to understand what the hell happened to you, which I did for a very long time before I started getting any therapy. And that itself is very, very important, because even if you go and get therapy and counseling, if you don't learn about what happened to you and why and how, it's just going to happen to you again. There is no question about it, right? It's going to happen to you again. So you really do want to learn about this stuff. And the good news is that it's not hard to do. It just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of discipline on our part. And anyway, I talk about critical thinking as a discipline because I want people to get that it's something that you practice constantly, just like you would practice learning karate. You would dedicate time to it. You would work on it. You would learn new techniques. After you'd mastered the simplicity, the simple stuff, you would move up to more advanced stuff. You wouldn't try to do flying kicks on your first day.
No, of course not.
You know, you might try, but you're going to land on the ground and you're going to look like an idiot, right? So you don't jump into the rhetoric and the debate on the first day, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, of course.
Right? So take it step by step. But I really can't stress this enough. It's so important to your mental health and well-being to know about how people can prey on you. And there are predators out there. You know, we call them cult leaders, narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths. We have all these diagnostic labels that we've kind of sort of taken out of psychology, but the best word I've come across in all the years I've been doing this is human predators. That's what we're dealing with, you know? And we don't have to worry about their psychology, and we don't have to worry about whether they're narcissists or not and all that, because these words get misused all the time. But they are predators. They are people who are looking at you as prey.
Yeah.
You know, and they're going to do things. They're going to say things and they're going to do things to try to make you feel unsure, uncertain, you know, stupid, silly. They're going to make you feel like your views or your opinions don't matter, aren't important, shouldn't even be said, while their views and their opinions are of the utmost important, and you better get it.
that's the literal stopping critical thinking. Basically, you don't criticize anything.
Exactly.
I will tell you a funny story. Actually, I think I am the only one on Earth who took money from Scientology.
Tell me.
Okay, I'll explain how.
Yeah.
Once I was walking in Stockholm, and exactly in the centrum of Stockholm, and there was also that stand with the Scientology people and with the e-meter, you know, and they were doing that stress test. They didn't call it personality test.
Yep.
They called it the stress test.
Yep.
And I knew how it worked. Basically, I knew the galvanic skin response, and I knew how the ionic really sweat pores are gonna affect the reading. So yeah, there was a guy who told me, yeah, you want to take a test? I told him, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I held the cans, and he told me, I think a happy thought. Right. So I thought a happy thought, and yeah, the meter moved, and he said, yeah, now think a bad thought or negative thought, something bothers you. Okay. And I thought, and again the needle moved, and I told him, like, how does it work? Although I knew actually how it works, but I just was trying to test him. I told him, how does it work? He told me, I cannot tell you, but you have to come for a course. You know, it's very cheap, and you can come to our courses, our church. And I told him, okay, but is there any book, anything I can read about it? And he told me yes. And they had like really a new Dianetics at that time. That they had Dianetics book with the volcano, that old version. I don't know if the new version differs. And that was in 2007. at that time.
Yep. Still has the
And
volcano.
still has a volcano. Yeah, and I told him, but he told me you have to buy it. You have to buy the book.
Yep.
I told him, but I don't have money. You know, I just give me the book at least. At least let me read it and I'll bring it back to you. You know, like I'm not gonna abuse the book really. And he told me, okay, you know what? I think he felt sorry for me, so he gave me the book. He told me, okay, next weekend we're gonna be standing here again. All right?
Really?
I told him, okay, sure. Yeah, and he gave me the book, and I came back the next weekend, and they were gone. So I have Dianetics books for free. Yay!
That is so wildly wrong of him to have just given you that book. Oh my God, I can't believe he did that.
I fooled the Scientologists. Yes, I took money from them. Really, and I by the way, I read it, and I found it kind of weird in the beginning because, especially the first like chapter or two, the way Mr. LRH, he was trying like directly, or I guess indirectly, like telling me that everything I say is correct. Don't question.
Yeah.
Just follow. Don't question. Everything I say is correct. Just do it. And it reminded me of the army, actually. I was in the army, so it reminded me a bit of the army, but more, I would say, authoritative.
Yes.
In a sense.
That's Hubbard.
That's Hubbard.
You know, it took me 10 years of being a Scientologist before I was able to get through Dianetics. Yeah,
it is. It's written weirdly. It's not the easy read, I would say. It reminds me of Ken Casey. One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I read that book. That was a good one.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of Ken Casey kind of writing style, which is not easy to read. It's not an easy read like Dan Brown, Da Vinci Code. You can really
sure, yeah,
read through it really quickly, page after page. Like LRH and Ken Casey, that feels like every page you have to think about it a bit. Like what does he mean? It's like Nietzsche books, you know?
Yes.
You have to think about it a bit.
That's right.
That's
exactly right.
But there was lots of nonsense, I have to say.
Big time. Big time. Yeah, it's goofy. Dianetics was it's a great exercise book if you want to practice some critical thinking, actually, because he makes claims in that book that sound like they make sense until you start parsing the words and actually breaking it down, and you realize he's saying nothing.
No.
But it sounds so amazing, and it's really quite tricky how he does that. Hubbard was kind of good at that.
Yeah, it's kind of like he rehashed the Freudian therapy style with hypnosis and really with zigzags and really like bended ways and to present it in a new way. You know, it is. I have to give him credit. It is good. It is good in that way that he really he doesn't make you feel that way. But if you look at it objectively, you will notice. Really, you would notice the tricks and cons and everything.
That's right. That's exactly right. Hey, something else that occurred to me to just mention real fast on that God question. I didn't know you were going to ask me about God. Something else I'll say. I mean, because I kind of addressed that sort of from a personal point of view, but. Since it was kind of a serious question, I do want to comment on the fact that I think a lot of people in the atheist world miss on something kind of important about religion, and that is its cultural and its sort of sociological function.
Yeah,
because it's not just a set of ideas. It's not just a group of things that you think.
True.
Right? It's more than that.
That's why I'm also standing against the atheist guys or girls who says like we should wipe out religion.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, you can't really, because we are emotional beings in nature. Really, like the frontal lobe is very narrow, which is logic. The hind lobe is the emotional. So we are emotional beings by by design of nature. So we need a couple millennia maybe involvement and evolutionary until we reach that level.
That's right. I agree with that completely. And that kind of gets sidelined or ignored, I think. You know, a lot of people in the atheist activism world are very, very angry former believers. And that doesn't make them bad people. I'm not saying that to make it sound
no,
like...
they're being good, but the way is bad.
Well, it becomes a bit of a... They're pushing back so hard. And what's missing in the argument is nuance, right? Is the idea that there's a spectrum here, and that it's not a matter of all black or all white. It's all good, it's all bad. You're not going to destroy religion anytime, ever. So
it's almost like you're fighting intolerance with intolerance, you know? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Okay. That's exactly
You're fighting the radicals by being a radical. Come on, guys.
Exactly.
Think straight here.
That's right. Unfortunately, while I can criticize and sort of talk about online activism and atheism and how, you know, they can go a bit off the rails sometimes, and they can. Unfortunately, the volume of people on the theist side of that equation who are using religion abusively or are using religion in a controlling, authoritative fashion is much greater. It's a much bigger problem. And so the atheism problem is a thing, but it's not anywhere near the size of problem that, you know, the abusive nonsense we see coming out of some of these religious organizations. Happy to criticize both sides, but I think the proportionality has to be commented on too, you know.
Believe you me, I do it too.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds like you've had some experience with that too.
Really? I mean, do you actually? I heard that you're taking your master's very soon, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm getting a master's in the psychology of coercive control.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So what does that entail, actually?
Well, it's a lot of study of the subject of coercive control, right? Which is basically isolation, manipulation, and control. Those are your three factors, right? And the big spoiler, the big secret about coercive control is that it is the same set of controlling or isolating or abusive techniques and thought control and thought reform techniques, whether you're talking about human trafficking, whether you're talking about domestic violence, whether you're talking about cults or gangs or terrorists. There's a whole spectrum here. There's a lot of different domains of human activity that we get up to, but how we go about controlling people, and specifically how we control them in a manipulative and abusive way.
So in a sense, there are different elements of control. It's not like one-way streets. There are different streets, branches that lead to that.
Yeah, like you can find somebody who has been trafficked, like labor trafficked or sex trafficked. If you sit them down and you start working over, you know, what happened, what did they do to you, how did they convince you to be part of this, how did they keep you there, you know, you will find certain circumstances where people are physically chained or shackled or kept, you know, physically imprisoned. That's definitely a thing. But you will also find psychological control mechanisms, and you'll find that the person who was trafficked experienced the exact same things I did as a Scientologist.
Yeah.
Or that a battered wife might experience, or a battered husband for that matter, might experience in a domestic relationship that's abusive. Gaslighting, motivated reasoning, right? The trauma bonding, all the things that they do to reel you in and then keep you there are the same. And that's what's so interesting about it, because this program that I'm doing, nobody's ever looked at it this way before. And it actually is very interesting because it really does show you across the spectrum of human experience how similar we behave in certain ways, you know, and that's good news, because what it means is that the way that we can go about isolate or, you know, freeing people and then and then giving them therapy or treatment or help, same, you know, across these spectrums, so across these domains. So it's been quite interesting learning about this from the point of view of how people get into it, but it's also been interesting to learn about this from how to get people out of it.
Well, and thanks to you also, thanks to your podcast, actually, that you're meeting such people. You're meeting really people who recover from, like I've seen recently that that episode which really broke my heart. That lady from the Mennonites.
Yes, Hannah. Yeah, Hannah Kroster. Yeah.
My goodness. I mean, hats off to her courage. Really. I mean, wow. Really.
Yeah, and she's actually pursuing legal action now. So, so she's on a roll, man. She is going to take those guys down.
More power to her, really. I wish, to be honest, I wish more there. In the Arabic world, I wish more ladies would have really an ounce of her courage, really, to take those steps, because really your life is much more valuable than a cult, really.
Big time.
Yeah, and abuse it. All right, Chris, I really truly appreciate it, and thank you for accepting the invite. I was really doubtful because I sent to you actually at the same day, by the way. I sent to you and I sent to Mr. Atack. And Mr. Atack never even opened the he didn't even, but I don't know, it's not his personal. It's that what's the other account? It's not his personal account.
The Opening Minds.
The Opening Mind, exactly. That Opening Mind.
Yeah, you'll probably go ahead and I'll give you his email address on our Twitter after.
I would appreciate it. I would appreciate it, really.
Because I'm sure he'll be willing to talk to you.
I would love it. Really. He's really. By the way, I have to say it. I really liked your pushback on his anecdotal story about that BBC journalist who went on the ship.
Yes,
I have to give you credit for that. Really, that's really, here is critical thinking at large working. Really
gotta try. I mean, yeah, exactly.
I really liked it because it's kind of anecdotal evidence. You know, it's one guy telling the story and there is no evidence for it. You know,
exactly.
Even though I dislike or even despise Mr. LRH, but that doesn't mean you have to accept everything negative about him.
You got it. That's right. Cool, man. Well, thanks for having me on your show. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And that was all. And hopefully until we meet next time. So there we go.